I don't use that door. Come around here. Here's a thing I want to show you. This is video footage from 10 years ago that we took in Italy. Where I'm talking about is it's about 40 minutes drive from Turin Airport, and it's halfway up a mountain. And if you've seen the name of the rose, it's the next mountain along from the location mountain of the name of the rose. And the people we're visiting call themselves the Nation of Damanhur. And this is about 500, 600 folk. They're kind of artists, engineers, thinkers, philosophers, this kind of thing. And I'll tell you who you'll see in the video is John Joyce, who played Saul Goodman in the Illuminatus. He was there with us. And you'll see Daisy, my daughter. Anyway, the thing is, I think it was 15 years before this video was taken, when the moment had seemed right, halfway up this mountain, half a dozen or so of them had started to make a hole. They'd scrabbled a kind of little hole into the mountain, and this progressed, all in secret, and the secret half a dozen grew to a secret 100, and they carried on making this hole, this project hole in the mountain. And then they got, shortly before our visit, they'd been betrayed. Some geezer who'd worked on the project early on, he said, if you don't give me $500,000 American, I'm going to tell the world what you're up to in the mountain with your hole. And they said, well, we're not giving you any $500,000 American at all. And so it got out what they were up to, and they got a visit from the military and the Carabinieri. Anyway, they were astounded. What they'd come up with in this mountain was the 8th wonder of the world. It's enormous. I mean, there were no caves involved or anything. They burrowed into this thing, and it's about 3 or 4 times the size of the whole National Theatre complex in there. And there's kind of labyrinths, and it's a bit like an Indiana Jones business. I'll tell you something, they got into trouble because they hadn't had planning permission for the 8th wonder of the world. At the time we visited them, they were still going from court case to court case because the local council reckoned that they must own it, since they were the people off whom they should have got the permission. But after this interview, they went to their final hearing, and the judge said, he said, well, of course it's yours. He said, I'm very pleased you didn't ask for planning permission, because I happen to know you wouldn't have got it. You know, I think you joined the Damanhur Appreciation Society. The two Damanhurians you'll particularly see on this are Esperidi Ananas. She does all the translations from the kind of Leonardo da Vinci character Oberto Eraudi, the fella in the beard. He's the genius behind the whole thing. Anyway, let's go. Prosperity. That's Alberto there behind. Yeah, there's John Joyce, Saul Goodman on the right there. Yeah, so I kind of kept in touch with the nation of Damanhur. I never went back there. I'm not told you. I used to see Asperity particularly when Asperity is kind of the public face of the nation of Damanhur. When she was in London, I'd sometimes see her. But it was I don't know, probably just over a year ago. Asperity was round, and she had this film script. Evidently, there was now the notion that there should be like a Hollywood movie, a Hollywood feature movie made about Damanhur with, I don't know, Tom Hanks or something playing Alberto, maybe, that sort of thing. And she showed me. I thought she lent it to me. She lent me this script. What had happened was Asperity had been lecturing in Los Angeles, you know, about the goings on at Damanhur, and someone had come up to her afterwards and said, you know, there ought to be a full movie made about you guys. And she was a kind of a producer lady, and she found this author, screenwriter Dawn Aldridge, I think was responsible for, I think she was the creator of Love Boat, Dawn Aldridge. Anyway, they went and researched into Damanhur, and then together with Asperity had come up with this script, which for some reason is called Liber S. And I read it, and I said to Asperity, I said, listen, I'm a Damanhur enthusiast, you know, so I found it extremely interesting. I said, there's a lot in here I didn't know about you. I said, I don't think it really holds together as a movie. I think if someone actually was persuaded to make this movie, I said, I think you'd be disappointed in it. And she said, I agree. And she said to me, could I help her with it? And I said, well, I don't know, maybe. Anyway, so she invited me back to Damanhur, and I stayed there a week. And I was going every day. I was going over little bits of this and trying to think of how it might be better. And I'd say things like, "You see, look, I said, this. It's actually contradictory with this, really, to me," and so forth, so forth. And Asperity said, "Yes." She said, "You're right." She said, "And I'll tell you why that is." She said, "We decided that it would be best not to tell the real story of Damanhur, what we're kind of really up to, because it would be too confusing or something for the audience, you see." She said, "But I'm not sure I'm right." I said, "Listen, I can't comment on this unless unless you're going to tell me, so what is the real story of Damanhur?" She said, "Okay." And it goes something like this. Apparently, human life is finished on the planet Earth, and the year is not, well, she was talking last year, so the year was not 2003, human life having finished. Now we know that human life finished from the galactic conference of the year 2610. Yeah, it was a galactic conference of humans. Now by humans, evidently, we're not talking about people who look like us. Apparently it's very unusual for the human form to be this kind of ape-style business that it's adopted here. It's more usually insectoidal. Some are like trees. Some look like Westcliff-on-Sea. Anyway, and it's galactic, she said. Not intergalactic, galactic. And anyway, at the conference in 2610, the going of all human life on the planet Earth was regretted, because apparently years ago humans had been pretty sparky at these events. But this is long ago. This is the Atlanteans. The Atlanteans used to go to these do's, but we've really not been represented since then. And also the going of human life on Earth was regrettable, they were saying at the conference. Because Earth was kind of handy as some kind of portal or gateway. People going for something else. But then someone at the meeting said, yeah, but we could in a way have human life back on Earth if someone had the courage to go back in time along the synchronic lines of synchronic tubings or something, go back in time and get reborn as an actual human baby. And people say, well, that's a dodgy idea, actually. It might work, might not, you know. And also, do you know what I mean? The whole trauma and drama of getting born as an earthling babe, do you know what I mean? You'd be likely to forget what you'd done it for. But anyway, somebody, I don't know if it was an insect or what, it said, yeah, well, I'm going to have a shot. And did indeed come back down the synchronic tubings, synchronic lines, and was born to Mr. and Mrs. Airowdy in the Piedmont area, I think, of northern Italy. Mrs. Airowdy, I think, ran the inn there. Mr. Airowdy being a brave partisan in the war. Anyway, the young Airowdy child called Alberto showed many precocious signs as a little lad. He was able to levitate his schoolmates. He'd be able to tell you what was in your lunchbox without you opened it, and he could cause apparitions to appear at football matches. He also invented a rocket-propelled bicycle which was able to overtake a Fiat car going up one of the hills. Also, shortly after he was born, a strange old man arrived with a lot of old tomes and books, which was evidently for young Alberto, and these were put in a loft. And when at a young age Alberto came upon them, he opened one of them, and all the information danced off the pages and entered his body, and that particular volume disintegrated. Also, I think when he was at the age of 16, he was visited by himself, aged 30, who gave him some advice. But I think he'd come to have a look at some bit of the book that he'd forgotten about. This is a curiosity, because when Alberto got to the age of 30, he didn't go back. Anyway, then in his, he was young, I don't know, 18 or 19 or something, I think he founded an outfit called the Horus Society in Turin. Now listen, I didn't know this, but Turin has got an extremely ancient history. It goes back, some say, before ancient Egypt, with all its magic and wizardry and witchcraft and whatnot. Anyway, he founded the Horus Society, and then he hived off some bunch from the Horus Society, and they went off looking for their own place, which was it was round and about that mountain where you saw that stuff. Anyway, but his job, as he began to recall it, was the heaving up of a new timeline. Do you see what I mean? So that we ceased to be on this disastrous course we were now on. I asked Hesperity why. I mean, like, what had happened? I mean, why did we get on such a disastrous course that we were all gone and dead and finished by 2610? And she said, well, it's due to what they call the community, the nation of Damanhur, the enemy of mankind. I said, who is this enemy of mankind? She said, she said, it's in us. She said, the enemy of mankind is up us and in us. And that's the problem. Anyway, we fell foul of the enemy of mankind. Anyway, the job is to heave up this new plane of reality, this new timeline. This is not an easy thing to do. And Alberto knew he'd got to get hold of some of the knowledge that was around back in the days of old Atlantis. Evidently, the old Atlanteans had got on with time travel and stuff, you know, and were able to, as I say, to go to the galactic meetings. They were quite ahead in a lot of ways. And so that's why why Alberto had started all this time travel business. Inside the mountain there, and Esperity showed it to me, they've got this time travel apparatus. You know, like you go in and you have to go in the thing naked because they can't make clothes go back in time. You know, and you go to nothing and go to a time elsewhere. And particularly, there'd been these trips made back to Atlantis to kind of ransack the libraries and the knowledge there for more data on how to heave up the new I don't know what to call it, a new plane of reality timeline, that, you know, one whereby human life might continue on Earth, and evidently, you know, if everybody in the world today said, yeah, rah, this is a fine thing, we must all, it still wouldn't work. Evidently, you know, like heaving up of a new plane of reality, it gets so far, it's got a huge desire to flap backwards. You need more than mankind's efforts it would take. What you need is the help of the gods. Now, by the gods, she informed me, she meant all of them. The whole bleeding lot, everything that had ever been worshipped since year yonk had to be awoken. These things kind of are. Evidently, the thing she told me is you can't deal with God direct. You need divinities. And the thing we've to be doing is to, and what the world, we've to be doing it, but this is what they're up to in the mountain, is going through this enormous catalogue. I mean, how many? I don't know, a million other things. These tech gods, to waken them up to, you know, help us with the mighty project. And so I said to Esperity, in my view, you should tell the whole story. That's what I think. Anyway, I started in, when I got back, I thought I was kind of helping her in various ways, or getting ready to help her, I suppose. As actual fact, I kind of was beginning to resent it a bit, because really I felt I ought to be getting on with my movie. I've got this movie I've been myself thinking that for the last 20 years or so should be made, which is the movie of the Laughing Jesus. The Laughing Jesus, I discovered all about him. What? The chair's broke again, James. In the Nag Hammadi library. Incidentally, there's another thing before I get onto the Laughing Jesus. In the bit Thunder Perfect Mind. Do you know this bit? It's all things like this. I am the whore and the holy one. I am the wife and the virgin. I am the bride and the bridegroom. I mean, I particularly like this because I have this notion about myself that I'm kind of two people. If I can show you, like, it's like on this side of my face. Do you see? This side of my face, I think of myself as Elsie, a sort of inept housewife. Do you know, not unintelligent, but not at all a forceful woman. Whereas on this side, this is the side of the spanking squire. This is like the senior geezer of the village who chastises the young ladies there, whether they've been naughty or not. See, like the spanking squire, and Elsie, the housewife. And I'm trying this. You see, I am the whore and the holy one. You see, I am the whore and the holy one. I sometimes go through Thunder, the Perfect Mind, testing out my face. I say, yeah, I'm the wife and the virgin. Yes, I am the bride and the bridegroom. Anyway, that's else in the squire. But here's where we find the. I've got it now. This is where I came upon the notion of the laughing Jesus. It's in the second treatise of the great Seth. Notice what it says in the introduction. The God of this world is evil and ignorant. All his minions are mere counterfeits and laughing stocks. It says, the interpretation of the crucifixion is that of the Gnostic Basilides, as presented by the heresiologist Irenaeus. Simon of Cyrene is crucified in the place of the laughing Jesus. And what this thing is, Bob, is a kind of comedy monologue by Jesus, by the laughing Jesus anyway, after the crucifixion. What happened was the laughing Jesus is like a kind of wild comedian. Anyway, when Mr. Shit was kind of hitting a fan for him, a local impressionist chap called Simon of Cyrene said, Lord, wouldn't it be a better idea if they crucified me instead of you, since thou art the inventor of gags, whereas I'm a mere impressionist. And our laughing Lord saw the wisdom of this, and as he says here, it was on Simon of Cyrene's head that they plonked the crown of thorns, and Simon of Cyrene who got crucified. Meanwhile, the laughing Lord was kind of high up on a hill, and when he saw that everyone was taken in by this stunt, he just couldn't help laughing. But it was no regular laugh, this, evidently. Apparently the thinking behind this is really rather different to the regular one. The thinking is that the creator, that you mustn't muddle the creator with God Almighty. The creator is a mad, balmy, evil, deranged demiurge, and everything which exists in our universe, everything which has existence, is evil, nasty, mucky, and abhorrent. But God Almighty, they kind of saw as the nothing, not the nothing we know about, but the nothing we don't know about. They're kind of agnostic. I call it the g-nothing. And they characterise the mighty g-nothing beyond the world of matter as eternal, ineffable laughter. Hence, really, the only decent thing you could do with your life would be to laugh or encourage laughter. Anyway, when the laughing Jesus saw that everyone was taken in by this, wow, he laughs, and it was such an incredible laugh that it was able to kind of spiral its way through the appallingness of matter, right through there up to the eternal, ineffable laughing nothing, and there was a kind of blowback of laughter, and it was kind of in that he managed to get away and got off, as we know, to live in the south of France with a comedian he was seeing at the time. Anyway, it's always been my notion that there should be a movie made about this. One of my queries has always been, who should play him? Who should play the laughing Jesus? There's an extraordinary church not so very far from here. It's a kind of a dodgy church. I think it wasn't consecrated, and there's lots of extraordinary bestial statuary around the thing. Anyway, every Thursday evening at 7:30, round the back of it, they make attempts at the conversation with the dead, with leaders of seances and something. The first time I went there was with a composer chap called Richard Kilgour, and he said, I think we ought to go. Anyway, we were just sitting at the back to keep out of the way of things, and there was a man there, and he had lots of gold on, and suddenly he was talking to me. He said, you? He said, yes, you, I'm talking to you. And then he said, I tell you what I've got here, he said, and he described this one-time girlfriend of mine, Susan Littler, who tragically died of cancer. And he just described her, and he said, "You know who I'm talking about, don't you?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "She's saying, why are you shouting so much?" He said, "That's what she's come to say. Why are you shouting so much?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "What is it? Is it because you're getting old now? Is it? He said, "You know, is that why you're shouting so much these days?" I said, I don't know." He said, "Is it getting you anywhere?" I said, "I don't think so." And he said, "Well, she's suggesting that you don't shout so much. Also, she's saying to me, isn't it about time you put that bathroom cabinet up?" God, gee, and that got to me. Listen, I was the only man, surely, who knew this, because I'm not a bathroom cabinet bothered chap at all. I mean, I just happily stick stuff around the bath. But in a house I had bothered to go down to the B&Q and get myself a bathroom cabinet, and I had bothered to stick it up in the bathroom. And then when I'd moved house, I'd taken the bathroom cabinet with me and I'd stuck it under the bed, you know what I mean, waiting for whatever day it was going to be, when it was the right day for sticking this up. And I was the only person who knew about this. Anyway, he says, what he's saying, he says, "Isn't it about time you put your bathroom cabinet up?" And he says to Richard, he said, "Are you with him?" Richard said, "Yes." He said, "Can you put it up for him? He's never going to get around to it." And then he moved on. He said, "Little lady there, does the name of Frank mean anything to you, dear?" And she said, "Oh, yes." He said, "Well, I've got Frank with me now." And Frank's saying, Frank wants to be telling you this, that with that kind of Venetian blind, you've got two pulleys. He said, "Well, pull one of them." And just go around saying you pull the other one. And gee. Anyway, I don't go there often, but I was there on another occasion, and they had a very talented woman running the night, and she was terrific because it was like the departed came up through her. Do you see what I mean? She kind of did impressions, as it were, of the people as they were coming through, and she got Sir Laurence Olivier up from his rest, and you could ask questions, you see. And so I said to Sir Laurence, it was terrific. He was as well. So he'd come through talking in his Richard III voice, and I said, "Sir," I said, "I heard that when you were asked who you thought was the greatest actor of your generation, you'd replied Charlie Chaplin." And he agreed, yes, he had. Anyway, I know he had, in any event. I read it in a book. And I said, "But are you able to tell us who is the greatest living actor today?" And without any hesitation, he said, "Jackie Chan." I thought, God, I reeled at that answer. I mean, where it had come from, I thought it was most extraordinary. And I'd been very lazy about Jackie Chan. I mean, I've seen a little bit of him on someone's video once, and I thought, well, this might well be true. And so in a newsagent, they'd got a Jackie Chan video there. It was only a couple of quid, and I bought it and I put it on and watched it. I mean, at that time I'd only got a little television, so that took videos, and put a video in. I watched the thing. I thought actually it was quite good, and so whenever I saw them, I got them. And then when I got to watching Drunken Master 2, and then Police Story 1, Police Story 2, Police Story 3, I thought, my God, Laurence Olivier has got it right. I mean, I hadn't realised this about Jackie Chan. I'd always thought that great old acting had gone forever. You know, the great old acting of Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, of course, and Harold Lloyd had all gone. Well, it hadn't gone at all. It had gone to Hong Kong. And I thought, well, I've got to be watching this stuff on the big screen. And no matter, no sooner had I announced this, I've got to be watching this on the big screen, than I was given an advert to do, a commercial on the television, where they paid me silly money. And I invested all the money in my projector, so I could project this stuff on a big screen on my wall. Come over here a moment, Bob. the shades. This is only part of it. This is part here of my grand Jackie Chan collection in here. And I can tell you now who ought to play the Laughing Jesus. Laughing Jesus in my movie should be played by Jackie Chan. I'm going back to that September the 11th, 2001. So I'm not going to go to the 11th. The 11th, as I recall, was a Tuesday. So the 10th was the Monday, the 9th the Sunday, and the 8th the Saturday. Well, on Saturday, the 8th of September 2001, I was in Philadelphia because I'd been invited there to do one of my little one-man appearances. And shortly before going on, I got talking to this very old man who had a curious accent, and like an Americanish accent, but an odd one. And I said, where are you from? And he said, PEI. And I knew what that meant, Prince Edward Island off Canada. And I said, Prince Edward Island? I said, isn't that where that girl's book is set? And he said, what, Anne of Green Gables? He said, yeah. He said, and thank the Lord for Lucy Maud Montgomery, he said, because it's the only industry we've got left on the island. He said, do you know many Japanese? I said, well, I said, yes, I know quite a few, yes. He said, how'd you find them? I said, fine. I said, yeah, I like them, I get on with them very well. He said, that is surely a statement that would surprise your father. I said, well, yes, that's right, it is. And he told me this, that after the Second World War, there'd been many think tanks set up as to, you know, allied think tanks as to what to do now we'd won. And it was actually reckoned that the bigger problem was the Japs, not Germany and its Nazis, but the Japs, whether it was actually feasible to share a planet with these fiends. Anyway, it was the Canadians who'd been given the job of trying to think something up. Anyway, the Canadians reckoned it would be a good idea to begin with if more Japanese folks spoke English. I mean, we obviously didn't have to learn Japanese because we'd won. But more Japanese spoke English. So they set up all these English-speaking classes and courses all over Japan. And as I understand it, these weren't optional, you had to go. And being Canadian, as a set book, they used Anne of Green Gables. And this very fast got translated into Japanese, and very fast became the Japanese's most favourite book. It's the biggest selling book and still is today in all Japan. If you're asking Japanese folk about this, they don't call it Anne of Green Gables, incidentally. They kind of back translate it as Ginger Anne. And when it refers to this industry that they got on the island, I mean, the Japanese are coming in their thousands over to Prince Edward Island, and they get married there. They love getting married there in oldie Anne of Green Gables kit. And the reason that I got on with these Japanese is because of the influence of Anne of Green Gables. Its incredible structure, he was telling me, like it's constructed of redemptive vignettes. They said to redeem the Japanese nation. Anyway, after I was thinking about this. It's an extraordinary story. Now the next day, that would be Sunday, 11th, 10th, Sunday the 9th, September 2001. It had been my intention to go and see loads of the Philadelphia Fringe Festival shows, see some stuff by some people I've been chatting to. But in my hotel room, I put the television on, and although it wasn't at work, I knew in half a minute what they were showing. They were showing Anne of Green Gables. And the first thing I noticed was how funny it is. It's very funny. And the next thing I noticed was that I was crying. I was weeping profusely. You could actually hear my tears hitting the floor. I thought, this is so extraordinary. And so I wanted to see what I looked like. So I was able to get to the bathroom, And so I was still watching the television to witness the sight of myself in tears watching it. You know, and the cause of fitting in. Anyway, it turns out what I was watching was the public service channel, and this was fundraising day. So every so often the anchor lady came out to tell us we ought to be writing cheques off to the public service channel because, you know, they were so terrific. For example, doing things like today, having an Anne of Green Gables marathon. Evidently this thing was going to go on till midnight, you know what I mean, because it's not just Anne of Green Gables, it carries on. Anne of Avonlea, Anne of here, Anne of everywhere. And she gets older. I think in the book she winds up a great grandmother or something by the last book. Anyway, so I didn't go and see any shows. I was held to this. I have to tell you, it was a great wrench to have to go off and perform my last show, and I didn't bother saying goodbye to anyone. Ran back to the hotel, and I was able to catch the last bit of it. The next day, the 10th, that was when I was going to be leaving in the evening, and it had been my intention that morning to be going round the video stores of Philadelphia to see if they got any Jackie Chan DVDs or videos that I hadn't got in my collection. But I now was on the hunt to get hold of the whole set of these Anne of Green Gables, this Anne of Green Gables series that I'd seen the day before, and take them home with me. I did get a Jackie Chan though. I got his City Hunter. It's a City Hunter, incidentally, is a thing that Jackie Chan made for the Japanese. He got a hell of a lot of fans in Japan, and he said, "What do you want me to do?" And they said, "We'd like you to convert the City Hunter comics into a film." To be honest, it's not a great movie, but anyway, that was the one I got hold of. And then I caught what was actually going to turn out to be the last plane out of Philadelphia for some time. Anyway, I got back home in the morning, and I rang my manager up, who books me around these things. He said, no, he said, don't be talking to me. He said, put the television on. There's something incredible going on in the States. And there was the second aeroplane flying into the Twin Towers. Anyway, I watched that relentlessly all day on the repeats of that, and then I kind of had enough. I mean, I was watching it on my big screen too. I'd had enough, and I thought, well, I think I'll just watch that bit of Green Gables. I got an hour and a half of Green Gables that I'd missed. I watched that. I still wasn't tired, and I thought, well, shall I watch City Hunter? And I thought, no, I won't. I'm not going to watch City Hunter now. I'm going to go to bed soon. So what I did was I thought, well, I just watched the bonus extras. Now, and the last of the bonus extras on the DVD of City Hunter, it's got Jackie Chan, his immediate plans for the future. And he was evidently about to be filming imminently the movie Nosebleed, in which he's to play the window cleaner of the New York Twin Towers, who falls in love with the waitress in the restaurant or cafe at the top, but they get involved with terrorists who are planning flying stuff into the towers. So this was what it said he was going to do. I thought, Christ, this is extraordinary, because you see, I was thinking, what videos do terrorists watch? I should have thought they watched Jackie Chan movies. So it said there'd been delays, there'd been hold-ups and hiccups. They're now going to get on it. Well, there hadn't been hold-ups and hiccups, and he had made it. Well, I don't think they would have done it, because I was like, they couldn't have gone flying stuff into the things. Not after Jackie Chan had stopped it. I don't know, they'd done something, but not that. What a thing I did regarding Anne of Green Gables is on the Saturday I wanted to see whether it was merely just affecting me, this thing. So I invited quite a lot of hard-bitten old geezers round, didn't know their Anne of Green Gables, to watch the whole marathon. And it was the man from Mossad was the first. He said, about 3 minutes in, he said, I was just going to take a walk around the garden. said. And then hard-bitten playwright John Constable, he only writes plays about drug addicts and prostitutes and things. He was in floods of tears. He said, how is she doing this to us? I said, that's redemptive vignettes. Handing round. I'd got these big boxes of Kleenex we were handing round. Just to return for a moment to the enemy of mankind. Do you remember his parody to say, well, how human life finishes on the planet Earth? That's due to the enemy of mankind, which is within us. And come here. It's a cigarette. I've imported these mainly because I think here with these this is well, I call it the arsehole trilogy. You call it it's American. It's the arsehole trilogy. It's a very good. It's which is the first one? Yeah. Yeah. Arsehole No More. In this first book, the writer, Dr. Crement, Dr. Xavier Crement, eminent proctologist, he's doing very well, but then his wife leaves him, his children won't talk to him, and luckily someone says, well, yeah, it's because you're an arsehole, that's why, and he gradually appreciates that and takes steps to de-arseholify himself, and sort of forms a kind of arseholes anonymous. And then in the next book, Arseholes Forever, it turns out that some folk are such complete arseholes, there's nothing can ever be done, but it's how to spot them, how to stop them, but actually it's how to avoid them is more in Arseholes Forever. And then there's the third one. It's kind of flawed, the third one in my opinion, but it's quite good, the arsehole conspiracy. Anyway, when you read these books, you start to see, because it's kind of encyclopedic, you start to realise that everybody you know is some kind of arsehole. Do you know what I mean? And actually worse than that is you suddenly start to get a little inkling of the kind of arsehole you are. And I'll tell you how Anne of Green Gables works. Anne, little orphan Anne, she reckons, she calls it kindred spirits is what she calls it. She says, obviously when you've got people in authority over you, you've got to kind of, be wary of them, but don't have the minimum to do with them. The only people who matter are kindred spirits. Actually, in other terms, it's this. It's how a redemptive vignette works in Anne of Green Gables. Anne meets an arsehole. Now, sometimes she'll do a prank on the arsehole, and that's good fun, arsehole suffering's good. But sometimes, and this is what draws the tears all the time, sometimes the arseholes get a glimpse of what an arsehole they are and make an attempt to de-arseholify, do some extraordinary nice thing for such an arsehole. That's how the thing works. Anyway, I've brought these over to flog around the place because I think this gives an inkle of this concept of the enemy of mankind. Hang on, I think it's getting sunny. Let's go give the dogs a swim. Yeah, Bob, it was about a dozen or so years ago. I was giving a talk about the laughing Jesus and other stuff, and suddenly a bloke chimed out, interrupted. He said, yeah, Mr. Campbell, but what do you believe? Yeah, he said, what do you believe? And I said, what do I believe? He kind of got me. What do I believe? I said, what do I believe? I said, I believe that you shouldn't believe. I've got to walk backwards, have I? While you walk... No, this is how they do it. You walk backwards, I walk forwards. That's it. That's all. I said, what do you believe? I said, I don't know. I believe you shouldn't believe. I believe this believing business is a dangerous nonsense. I believe you shouldn't believe. But then I said, but I suppose you should suppose. I suppose supposing is a good thing. I suppose that. And I'll tell you what I was thinking of is I've been on this train journey to Newcastle on Tyne, long train journey, and there was this woman who had to be talking to me, and wait, she was telling me how quite a number of women in the Inverness area of Scotland had been abducted by UFOs. They've been kidnapped, taken up in flying saucers, and in these craft they'd been subjected to intimate gynecological inquiry, and some of them had been returned pregnant, and that's why you see such a lot of strange looking children around the Inverness area of Scotland. Now the thing is, I wasn't equipped on that train journey with any data to the contrary, so it seemed to me that, well, I mean, like, just for the moment one should suppose it, open one's mind to it, just for a moment, because it was my understanding that thinking is a kind of electrical art, well, an art, an electrical thing, and just by the act of, could be, probably not, you would possibly rewire yourself helpfully. And Max, where's he gone? Not working, so I said, anyway, I believe you shouldn't believe, but I suppose you should suppose. When I got back home, I got a phone call from a TV company. They said, that was very inspiring what you said about believing that and supposing. They said, but do you know what you're supposed to suppose these days? I said, what do you mean? They said, well, do you know what science is telling us that we're supposed to suppose now? I said, well, quite frankly, I don't, but I said, I have to tell you, it's not my interest. I said, I'll tell you why. It's crank science, pseudoscience, science fiction. I said, it seems to me if you want to know what you're supposed to suppose, you just got to find someone who's been through the proper educational system. They'll be able to tell you. They said, well, we don't think so. Anyway, they said, we're making a programme, and we want someone to go around interviewing top-line scientists to find out, to kind of represent the ignorance of the British viewer and find out what we're supposed to suppose now. And, I certainly agreed to do the job. Anyway, I just want to tell you a few of the things that happened making that series. It was called Reality on the Rocks. And I remember we visited the Canary Islands. Where are you going?
Sun.
Oh, the sun. We visited the Canary Islands, which was a surprise to me because I hadn't known that they were so high. Or at least the one we went up and up, a kind of volcanic island with black sand. And anyway, up the top of this mountain, there are lots of lots of observatories there. Different nationalities of all the nations have all got observatories up there. And I visited our chap, the British chap, and he wasn't watching anything. He was listening. What he got was like this fucking great gramophone horn. Enormous thing. And he was listening to the echo of the Big Bang, he told me. And he got boxes and boxes of recordings he'd made of the... Yep! of the echo of the Big Bang. And it sounds like this. And I said, that sounds a bit like when you haven't quite found the station yet on the radio. And he said, well, that is the echo of the Big Bang too. He said, but he said down there, he said, you're getting a lot of interference from lampposts and whatnot. Everything up there where the air was here, he was getting really quite a reasonable. I said, well, and what do you do with it once you've got it? He said, what? He said there are still impurities and everything, and you had to work on it to get interference and that out of it. So he got a good. I said, and then what happens? He said, I await instructions. I said, how long have you been doing this? He said, 8 years. Anyway, it was all right. I could suppose him. Hey. Then there was the visit to CERN, C-E-R-N. This apparently was something like the most expensive peacetime scientific experiment ever, and CERN is on the... It crosses the border of Switzerland and France. CERN does, and what they've got there is this 27-kilometre tube of nothing. By nothing, they insist. We don't mean, not awfully much, really, but in fact they reckoned that there was more nothing at CERN than anywhere else in the known universe, they said. Anyway, having got there, nothing. Max! Hang on. What they do, apparently, is they whazz these subatomic particles. Subatomic, they explained. Subatomic particles. If I imagine an atom as being as big as St Paul's Cathedral, then a subatomic particle, this is about as big as half a grain of sand. Very small gentlemen indeed, apparently, these subatomic particles. Anyway, they whazz them in opposite directions around a 27-kilometre tube of nothing. And when a couple of them collide... When a couple of them collide, new matter is formed in the nothing. New matter. Evidently this new matter being formed, it's not like the subatomic particles mutate in any way. New matter is formed. And this matter evidently being matter which has never been in our universe before, and matter of a sort which our universe has never had before. And as I understood it, they've been doing this experiment for years now. I assumed they'd have collected quite a bit of this new matter, and we were kind of important people. I was representing the ignorance of the British viewer, so I assumed we were going to get taken into some back room somewhere, and they must have at least a jam jar of stuff by now. But apparently not, because what we're talking about is very small indeed. And only actually, it's only there for a few instants of time. And in fact, you wouldn't have known it had been there at all if you hadn't have taken the trouble to build yourself a computer rather larger than Westminster Abbey. Now, when I think of computers, they hardly seem to have any wiring now. This has got cabling, this thick going around. It looks like the outside of the Pompidou Centre. And I said, has this got to be like this because you're using old-fashioned technology? And they said, no, man. He said, everything here. Yeah.
Go on, Ken, you going as well? Go on, Ken.
Max, go and get it.
Yeah, what's this?
They said, no, man, everything here is absolutely up to the mark. And I'll tell you what, the CERN people don't grin a lot. And you see what they're doing there is they're making an experiment on how our universe began. Like, when something went wrong with the nothing. And I said to them, listen, isn't there a chance you might be... I said, listen, isn't there a chance you might be successful? And that you'll start off a universe.
Am I allowed to throw it?
No, they're a bit dangerous. That you'll start off, you'll be successful. And you'll start off a new universe. We're all going to get chased up the arse by some new universe. And they said, we think that's unlikely. Anyway, I was okay. I could suppose everything that they told me at CERN okay. Where I had my problems, like, in supposing, was when I had to interview Dr. David Deutsch, Oxford University. Now, we'd been finding that I was getting the best interviews if I didn't talk to the guy first. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, if we got on, maybe we'd been rabbiting away and we wouldn't kind of know what we'd said off camera or on camera and get muddled. So the notion was that I would knock on Dr. David Deutsch's door, then he'd open it, and then he would lead me and the TV cameras into wherever he wanted the interview to be conducted, you see. Anyway, so I knocked on the door. I really liked him in an instant. So I used to breed ferrets, and he was just like one. Occasionally you get very friendly ferrets, and he was just like a little friendly ferret, Dr. David Deutsch. Anyway, I only just managed to get in through his door. I squeezed in, but the camera couldn't get in because we get all these free newspapers. They come through your door, without you ask. And it was like Dr. Deutsch it's like he hadn't cleaned away his free newspapers for 20 years or something. And that's what was jamming up the door. So anyway, we cleared those away, and then I had to knock again. And he took me into where he works, his kind of living room come workroom. And I've never seen really so much crap in anyone's room before. I'm not talking about scientific crap here. So it was like, old pizza boxes, crisp packets, this kind of garbage, it was kind of ankle deep in it. A few weeks before my visit, the Japanese had been there to find out the latest in quantum mechanical developments. They've been very, polite and everything. And then the Japanese had bowed a bit and said, "Yes, but doctor, can we clear away all the clap now for the interview?" And Deutsch said, "Well, yes," he said, I suppose so. He said, "But you're going to have to put everything back exactly where it is." It had taken the Japs about 3 hours to do this. They'd had to Polaroid all the rubbish, grid it in charts. Really meant it. Kind of a hero, I think, David Deutsch. Anyway, before I'd interviewed Deutsch, I'd been given a magazine to look at, a magazine article. It was in the Scientific American, and it was headline Time Travel. It said, "Common sense may rule out such excursions, but the laws of physics do not. David Deutsch." And it was, I'd only had time to read like the first bit of it, which had been about the grandfather paradox, which is where, if you've got a time travel machine plus a photograph of your grandfather aged 6, then you get that ball out. Then you travel back in time to just after the photo of your grandfather was taken. And, verify, oh yes, this is him. And then the interest of science is you strangle the little bleeder and dump the remains in the canal. The interest being, can you do that? Are there some things that you can't do on a reverse time travel trip? You know, because I mean, logically, you're not going to get born now because your grandfather's not going to meet your grandmother. And anyway, what Deutsch says in the article is, of course, that that's bollocks. He said, obviously, you cannot travel backwards in time in your own universe. What you've to do is to find a universe identical, or certainly similar, to this one. So similar that, you know, that how many details are going to bother you, and you go back in that one. Anyway, so my first question to Dr. Deutsch was this. I said, so, sir, I said, as I understand it, you think that there's more than just this one, our universe. You think there's more? He said, oh, yes, absolutely. And I said, if I've got it right, it goes like this. Every time I've got a choice to make in my life, every time I've got a decision to make, like maybe my neighbour's ill, and I think, oh, I'll go and visit Harry, and then I think, actually, no, what I'll do is I'm going to go and take a trip to that new wine bar. And there's going to be one universe in which I behave neighbourly, and another one in which I get pissed. He said, that's it, you got it. And I said, but what? I said, well, and this goes for everybody in the world there ever has been and never will be. He said, yes, of course. I said, yeah, but what about dogs? What about cats? I said, they're kind of decision-making things, aren't they? He said, yes, they are. I said, what, so there's a different universe for every decision every dog or cat makes? He said, yes. I said, how about ferrets? I said, well, how far are you going to go on this, Doctor? I said, let's imagine a swarm of mosquitoes, a swarm of gnats. I said, now let's zoom in on one gnat. I said, there's some kind of decision going on in that, like buzz here, buzz there, something like that. He said, yes. I said, well, hang on then. I said, are atoms decision-making things? He said, yeah. I said, well, what? And how about subatomic particles, quarks, what? He said, yes, of course. So listen, this is what he was telling the ignorant British viewer here, that there are not merely universes to the number of subatomic particles which constitute our one, but to the number of decisions these things will have made from the dawning of time to the putative end. And seems like they were in doubt when and how it was going to end. At the moment, evidently, the universe is expanding. And it's just this kind of little window of opportunity, really, for us to be here at all, you know, because it was too hot for us. And then very soon with the expansion, it'll be far too cold. You know, the universe, if it keeps expanding, just to wind up as a kind of enormous ice monument to its its own ridiculousness for having come into being in the first place. So I said, wow, I said, so there's an infinite number of universes then. It was a bit pained. He said, no, not infinite, he said, but a large number, certainly. I said, where are they then? He said, are you asking where are they located? I said, yes, I think I am, yes. Where are they located? He said, well, let me ask you a question. He said, where is last Wednesday located? Where is last Wednesday located? He said, I take it you do think there was a last Wednesday? I said, yes, I do. I said, I am one of those people who does think there was a last Wednesday. He said, well, where is last Wednesday located? Listen, he said, we've only been talking so far about what one might term the parallel universes. He said, I would call every instant of time. By instant, he's using the word technically apparently, he's meaning the smallest parcel of time you can have. He said, I would call every instant of time a different universe. And he said this, I've never not heard this before. He said if you get down to that kind of level of time, the instants of time are not joined together. He said science cannot explain why you, Ken, don't just suddenly turn into a camel. We can't explain that. And, hang on. Gertie! They're going to be out. Bring it here. Leave it. Oi! Leave it. First ball. So if you want to know how many universes constitute the multiverse, then you take the number of subatomic particles which we got in our universe to the power of the number of instants of time from the Big Bang to the putative end of the thing. This is just going to give you a rough guide on it. I said, is there any proof of this? He said, yeah, there's a lot of proof. And anyway, the one he gave me was what he called the twin slit experiment, the results of the twin slit experiment. As I understand it, what you have here then, in the twin slit experiment, is you've got a board or something, and it's got slit A and slit B. And then you get one photon of light. One photon of light is telling me, go, Max. One photon of light being the smallest parcel of light that you can have, and you fire this one photon of light at the slit A, slit B board, and it goes incredible. It goes the speed of light. No revving up, he explains to me. It goes. Anyway, faced with having to make the decision, this little photon chap, of whether to go through slit A or slit B, it goes through both. I said, what, it splits? He said, no, it doesn't split. It goes through both. I said, well, maybe it bounces on something and comes back through the other. No, he said, it doesn't bounce on anything. He said, it goes through both. I said, well, if you insist on saying it that way, that's nonsense. He said, that's it, you got it. He said, if you ever meet anyone who says they understand quantum mechanics, they haven't understood it. You see, so what's happening, he explains, is that here in Universe A, you missed it, Gertie. Gertie, those balls gone all the way out there, and you haven't gone for it. So let's bring back both. Probably not. Anyway, here's one for you. Yeah, it goes through both. So what we're seeing here is we're in Universe A, it turns out. So here in Universe A, our photon of light A goes through slit A. What we're seeing here is interference from one of these other universes. One of these other universes that's interfered with us. And Gertie! Hang on a minute. Slit A, slit B. What was I talking about? I and slit B. Yeah. And I said, slit A, slit B. I said, listen, I find your proof a bit flimsy. I said, now listen, I said, have you yourself, Doctor, had any one-to-one experiences with any of these other universes? And he said, yes. I said, go on, what? And but it turns out it was in the... Whoop! Come on. Max, here. He said, yeah, he had. And it turns out it was in the realm of cryptography. Thanks, right? Cryptography. This being the science of codes. He explains to me that you can't do codes like in the Second World War, you know, like we did to fool Germans and them us. That kind of code can be unravelled very quickly by a good computer in a minute or so. But the only... Oh! You finished on this? Okay, sit. Sit! Oh! Oi! Oi! Come on. Sit. There's really a hiatus now. Sit. Sit. Hiya! Sit. Stay. Shh, shh, shh. Sit. Two dogs. Yeah, the only safe way you can hide information now, he reckoned, is to hide it. Is to hide it in one or other of these other universes. And at the time of the interview, I think it was only himself, Dr. David Deutsch, and some fella called DeWitt in Texas or somewhere, who knew the technique of this, and they were picking out quite a bit of dough, it turns out, from various places for the hiding of information in other universes. Anyway, he explains that quite soon, like, we'll all know the truth of this. I said, well, why will we? How will we? He said, with the I don't know what he called it, building of the quantum computer or something. And I said, well, you know, how's that going to show us? And it goes like this. Here in our universe A, you've got our good Dr. Deutsch A building quantum computer A. But then in the next universe along, you see, the next universe along is only... The next universe along is only one ferret's whim different to this one. In fact, it may be the same, because maybe the difference hasn't happened yet. You've got to go on a hell of a trawl through all the universes of the multiverse till you come to the ones which are radically different to this one. But they are all there. But anyway, this is alphabet upon alphabet of Dr. David Deutsch's, all building their quantum computers. And then will come the moment when they'll all be pushing their buttons, and this will link them all up, evidently. Link all these computer systems up through, I don't know, countless billions of the universes of the multiverse. And then we'll all realise the truth of it. I said, well, how will we? He said, well, for example, he said, then we'll be able to do calculations and computations way beyond the scope of our universe. I said, computations and calculations like what? He said, well, we will be able to juggle number of an extravagant order. He said, like, we'll be wrestling with numbers way beyond the number of subatomic particles which constitute our universe. We'll be able to factor these numbers or something. I said, David, I said, is this going to add to the sum of human happiness? He said, I think so. He said, mathematicians are human, aren't they? That was in the morning. Now he was a very clear man, David Deutsch. Very clear. I could follow it all, but I couldn't for a moment suppose it. And that was in the morning. In the afternoon, careful! In the afternoon, I had to interview Sir Roger. This is Sir Roger Penrose. Sir Roger Penrose. an older man, and in fact, oi, Max, come here, get up ahead. Max, yeah, oi, oi, oi. So yeah, Roger Penrose, the older man. Now he hit Roger Penrose. He'd been Dr. David Deutsch's tutor, and they worked together, I think. But then they parted company. They parted company. My assumption that this was down to Deutsch's potty notions. So I said to Sir Roger, I said I was interviewing young Deutsch earlier today. I said, he tells me that if we take on board all the current discoveries in the quantum mechanical arena, that there's no way that we can avoid the explanation of the multiverse. And so Roger said, well, of course, David's right. He said, all I'm saying is that we haven't isolated the graviton yet. This evidently being some particle or something relating to graviton. We haven't isolated the graviton yet. He said, and when we do, it may possibly be different from what everyone's predicting. I thought, God. Anyway, I mean, after we finished shooting, the director of the operation and the crew said, well, we'll see you in the pub later. I said, yeah. But when I got back to my little hotel, you know, I thought, this is the most extraordinary day of my life, this. I thought, what I better be doing is writing down everything I can remember about, you know, everything. You know, what they were wearing, everything. Description of all the crap on Twitch's floor and everything. Most extraordinary. Anyway, it was about 10 o'clock. And I hadn't gone down the pub, but then I thought, actually, I think I might go down the pub. And then I thought, no, I won't. And then eventually about 10:30, I did go down the pub, but they'd all gone, the crew, the director, everyone, they weren't there. There was a couple of interesting looking people in the pub, but I didn't get involved. And went back, and when I got back to the hotel, I didn't have more than about two halves of bitter in the pub. And I got back to the hotel, and I carried on writing. I wrote some more memoirs of the day. Hiya! Hiya! In the morning, when I got up, I got all these bruises. Right down my side. Kind of mystery bruises. And I thought, what is this, you know, because I could account for my life, you know, and fallen over or anything previous evening. And suddenly I thought, I know what it is. In a universe not so far distant from this one, another Ken, this Ken, went down the pub, got involved in interesting company, and on the way back was knocked over probably by a student on a bicycle. I thought, Christ, what nonsense. And I said, no. And I decided, actually, it was bothering me so much, I decided not to worry about the many universes of the multiverse until I'd met Stephen Hawking. Now, interviewing Stephen Hawking is kind of a bit of a stunt, because you don't really get to interview him. What you get to do is to send him in advance your questions, and then he plums these into his machine, and then he's just got to, you know, press a couple of knobs, and you get the answer. Incidentally, his voice comes out of his back. Stephen Hawking, and that's not his only voice either. He can do. He's got a couple of others. He's got Sexy Sadie. He can do Sexy Sadie. He tunes to Sexy Sadie for parties. It turns out if you hear Stephen Hawking on the radio, he's probably not there. They just sent his equipment along. But he was there for me though, because this was television. And but what he'd agreed to do was after we'd got all the all the questions that have been arranged done, then he would answer one question for me live. You know what I mean? I'd ask it and it would take however long for him to type in the answer and it to come, the reply to come mechanically out of his back. Anyway, so he suggested that it was a question that bothered me personally. You know, it wasn't an important one for the programme. And I'd ascertained earlier that Hawking knew a lot about David Deutsch. In fact, he was a bit of an admirer of Deutsch. And so, this was my question. I said, sir, are all these many universes of the multiverse, I said, that are they all as equally real as this one seems to me to be? And Hawking said, yes. So here are. That is what we are supposed to suppose now. And I don't know about you, I couldn't do it. I couldn't actually really for a moment open my mind to it, just to suppose it. But I worked on it. You know, I got the job because I was supposed to be the great supposer. And here I was out-supposed by the establishment. I thought, geez, I'm going to be able to make it something. And it can be done. I mean, I decided my destiny was to be a citizen of the multiverse. And I rang up David Deutsch and asked if I could see him again, you know, privately, without the cameras. And he said, yeah, sure. So I said to him, look, I said, can we imagine for a moment that we've got the universes of the multiverse piled up like some mighty deck of cards. I said, and can we say that at the top of our deck, we've got a universe there where everything goes extremely well and charmingly for everybody and everything concerned. I said, that's not breaking any laws of physics, is it? He said, no. I said, okay, well, we've got that one at the top. I said, I said, for the moment, we could call that one heaven if we wanted to. He said, you can call it what you like. He said, because it's your thought experiment. And I said, thank you. I said, and then we can imagine at the bottom of the deck, we got some universe where everything goes extremely grimmo for everybody and everything concerned. He said. And I said, we'll call that one hell. Okay, he said. So I said, so is it not that it's like this, that there's kind of some kind of competition here, like a league table of universes? And about, you know, like which one's doing the best, which is the happiest or whatever. You know what I mean? But what we don't know is how we're doing. He said, yeah. He said, that's it. He said, but you've got to bear in mind, he said, we get to define which of the universes we're in. By every little decision or choice we make, we are defining which of the universes we are in. And it came to me this, you know, the little things that we do, and it seems it's all right because nobody actually knew about it, nobody found out. It does matter, because we've grubbily defined our universe in those private and appalling acts. And I found that becoming a citizen of the multiverse was quite beneficial to me on occasion. Like, for example, it gave me courage. For example, there was I'd heard that there was an interesting meeting going on early in the morning in the City of London, and I thought I'd not been invited to it, but I didn't know anyone there, but I now knew some of the names. I thought, no, I'd like to go to it. And so I thought, well, if I go back, go get it. I thought, well, if I get there early enough, probably, maybe it's okay, and I'll slip in. But I couldn't find it. I had the address and my A to Z. I couldn't find it, you know. And I was aware now the meeting had begun. I couldn't find it, and then it was so bothering me that I just couldn't even find it. felt so pathetic. I really took the pains to eventually find it. I mean, and the meeting by that time, it was only meant to be an hour long, had been on 40 minutes, and I found where it was, and I could see him in a basement. I could see him. Anyway, I thought, well, that's where it was. And as I was going, I thought, yes, well, of course, but in one of the universes of the multiverse, the Ken goes in, even now, later 40 minutes, one of them he would. Is it this one? And I decided, yes, it was. Yeah, so I went in and down, I opened the door, and they just kind of looked at me and found me a chair. Now, not that I got anything out of the meeting at all. I didn't know what was going on. Can't remember. I got nothing from it, except pride at my courage, pride at the way that I'd defined the universe here. What, are you getting in?
We'll just stick on the
Anyway, the science programme, Reality on the Rocks, it went down quite well, so we did another one that was called Brain Spotting. Now, I think the notion of this one was that we were going to inquire as to whether it was at all feasible that there would ever be a conscious machine, a machine that had something like human consciousness. And so what I had to do is, first of all, was interview loads of philosophers to find out what human consciousness is. And it turned out we don't know, not at a deep level, old boy. We actually don't know what human consciousness is. But it was thought by some that it has something to do maybe with the self. They spell self with a capital S. And qualia. Now, they told me this. They said I'm sad to relate here, Kenneth, but the jury has returned on the subject of the immortal soul, and there isn't one. As I understand it, the idea of the self is kind of like what we used to think of as the immortal soul, but it's kind of like a similar thing that you've kind of got while you're here, some kind of like the essence of Ken, the essence of Ken, the self. And qualia, I don't know if I ever quite understood what they were talking about. But there's an American philosopher, he said, well, Ken, he said you can make a machine that could chew toffee. He said it could chew toffee, this machine, no doubt. He said, but would the machine ever get the same qualia of experience from the chewing of the toffee? Something like qualia. Anyway, the big excitement, though, was when I had to interview Marvin Minsky. I think he's the guy at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I think he's the founder of the Department of Artificial Intelligence there. And he's a wonderful little guy. Quite old, I suppose. But he wears a fisherman's jacket, with all many pockets on it, and all filled with things. Listen, I interviewed him in his large bungalow, and in a very large room there, like 2 or 3 rooms knocked into one, it looked like. But you could hardly get through it, because your first thought is he's never thrown anything away. But it's not that. I'll tell you what, there were 3 grand pianos in there, but it looks like none of them had been played recently. Also, there were old Christmas presents unwrapped of many years ago. But it's kind of like this, you see, that Marvin Minsky's having extraordinary ideas the whole time. So I mean, he might have an idea, like me talking to you, all of a sudden Marvin Minsky gets an idea, but he carries on talking about what he was talking about, but maybe, this, he keeps this, he put it in his pocket, and his idea is in this, and then it goes, somewhere or other in his room. So I mean, I was interviewing him, actually inside his own memory palace. Anyway, Minsky said to me, he said if you're talking to anyone who uses the word qualia, uses the word self, you're talking to a very lazy person. He said, do you think you've got a self? He said to me. I said, well, I don't know. I said, I think so. Sometimes I catch myself thinking that I might have. Yeah. He said, well, I do. He said, it's curious. He said, but I would suggest you haven't got one. It's not like that at all. He said, the problem with those guys is they want to reduce everything down to one simple sentence. He said, simple sentences, yeah. He said, but there's a hell of a lot of them. He said, it's like this. He said, you've got many personalities, some that you'll never meet with in the whole of your life, no doubt, many of them. He said, it's like you're a suitcase, and things get jumbled up with it, and whoever's on top happens to be on whatever's on top at the time. It thinks it's the self. He said, meanwhile, he said, Ken, he said, we get on with everything we can get on with, he said. Very good, he had big glasses on. We get on with everything. Wonderful guy. Gee, I love Minsky. It was after interviewing Minsky, I had a week off, and I'd been taking an interest in reports of the Solar Templars. So it was a cult that had headed to the French Alps and the Swiss Alps. I think from French Canada they'd come, the Solar Templars. Anyway, they'd dispatched themselves in various bonfires, like a bonfire of 56 had set light to themselves someplace in the Swiss Alps, and another large bunch all set fire to themselves somewhere in the French Alps, and there was another little party. Anyway, I was looking at this on the map, and I noticed that all of the bonfires were equidistant from CERN. And I was wondering as to whether there was any significance in this. Maybe the nothing. I was thinking of the nothing, or the g-nothing, the eternal, ineffable, laughing g-nothing that they got at CERN. And I told my mate Jeff Merrifield about this, and sometimes he and I, we think we're Norman and Henry Bones, the boy detectives, and so we decided to take off there that week and have a look round and check this possible CERN connection out. And also Jeff had heard of another cult, also about the same distance from CERN, but this time in the Italian Alps, and this was the nation of Damanhur, and so we called in on them. And Oberto said this to me. What happened was I asked him about the self. This is on my mind because I've just been chatting to Minsky, and he seemed to agree. That's right. That no, you haven't got a self. But he said the reason that you think you got a self is that what you've got is the seating for a self. So you're mistaking the seating for something on it. He said, but you can get a self. He said, and evidently you get a self, you astound a self into being. Like if you get astounded, where you astound yourself, you astound, doing, you got a self there, but it'll only be for a moment or two, and then it's gone. If you're going to actually have a self, rather than be a chap with a self, you've got to live a life of continual self-astoundment. And when he told me that, it made some kind of sense of this extravagant achievement in this hole in the mountain. I could see why they'd done it. And while I was talking to Alberto, I was thinking, wow, so I am probably talking here with the only man on the planet who's got a self. And as I was thinking that, I thought, well, I'm wrong there, because there's another one I have met, and I'll tell you who that is. That's Minsky. Minsky, with his grand denial of the soul. We get on with everything we can get on with. Yes, I think he's got a self too. Anyway, I was so made up with those Damanhurian folk. They were so extraordinarily bright people, and astounding their self up. But my mate Jeff, he was taken as well, but he had to write a book about it. So Jeff was now to-ing and froing back to Italy, writing this Damanhur book. One time he comes back and he says they're time travelling. I said, what do you mean they're time travelling? He said, you know, inside the mountain where the this and that. And I said, yeah. He said, well, in there, he said, they've got a time travel apparatus. I said, what are you talking about? Well, they kind of sit around and chant or something and think there's some other when. He said, no. He said, no, they go in the thing, they disappear and they're someplace back in time. I said, have you seen them do this? He said, no. I said, listen, I said, to what percentage of likelihood would you say that they are time travelling? I said, listen, I've met a few there. I said, I'll tell you how likely I think it is they're time travelling. 0.001%. I said, what would you give it? And Jeff thought a bit and he said, 100. I said, 100? I said, Christ! I don't think you're the right man to be writing this book. I must tell you, this time travelling that they were claiming, it actually pissed me off. Because it's been my thought often that sometime there's going to come a cult so good that's going to get it right, you know. I don't think we got it right. I think, but they always have to make some daft claim about themselves. 100%. I said, are you the right man to be writing this book? Anyway, it turns out that a week or so later, Alberto Eraudi and his Sperity Ananas were coming to London. So I said to Jeff, why don't we take them to visit Dr. David Deutsch? Now, my notion here was Deutsch would listen to their claims of time travelling and, you know, he'd be able to stop Jeff making a fool of himself. Anyway, it was quite comic, I must say, having Esperity and Alberto, because they were so elegantly dressed, apparently in that Italian way, sitting around in all this crap. David Deutsch's, there's one moment when Esperity had to go to the toilet. Oh God, I've been in that toilet. Anyway, the thing was, they got on really well. What perplexed me was that Dr. Deutsch seemed to be quite happy with the fact that they were time travelling. What he wanted to know was, had they produced a second copy yet? Evidently, this notion being that, if I had a time travel apparatus, and tomorrow I travel back to now, today, well then I'm already here, aren't I? So that makes two of us, and then somehow we both go back to the proper time, i.e. tomorrow, and then we can be DNA tested. And this all, proved to one and all that we must have time travelled with the production of the second copy. Anyway, Alberto is all laboriously translated through Esperity. He said, well, I don't know that we can ever produce a second copy. He said, because we have not got the technique of going back in time to yesterday. He said, or any time in recent history. He explained to Deutsch that time is in discrete packets. And you've got to get outside your packet of time. So like ancient Mesopotamia, no big problem. But like more recent times, no. Anyway, Deutsch had some other notion of the kind of doing something instead of the second copy, and on it went for hours. This style of conversation, and then it was time for the Italians to go, and they invited Deutsch to go and. Go and stay there and have a look what they were into and all that, and that was all very charming. And then they left, but I lurked around at Deutsch's, and so I said to him, so what do you think? Do you reckon they are time travelling? And he said, I certainly wouldn't say they're not. He said they're very bright people. We'd ascertained early on that they were using other universes in order to get back in time, so they certainly had passed on that. I said, really? I said, so what percentage of likelihood would you say it is that they're time travelling? And he said, I would give it less than 50. He said something between 40 and 50% likelihood that they're time travelling. I said, I said, that's high. He said, Kenneth, the universe is way weirder than you know. And I said, well, so you'll be going there anyway? He said, no. I said, no. He said, no. He said, I never leave Oxford. He said, it's my view that anyone of any worth at some time or another is going to come to Oxford. I'll see him then. I said, well, you've got to make an exception here. He said, what have I got to? I said, well, you've got to, because you've got to go there and come back and tell me for sure whether they're time travelling or not. He said, these are very bright people. He said, they'd certainly be able to convince me. I said, I'm sure. He said, they'll be able to fool me that they're time travelling. He said, you want some stunt like that, you need the great James Randi, he said, or something like that. There it was. That's a conversation of some years ago. It's all tape recorded somewhere. And then the coming of Esperity and her film script. Now, I would say that Umberto Einaudi is the laughing Jesus. And if there is to be a movie, then Jackie Chan should play him. And I think the script should be constructed with Anna Green Gables type redemptive vignettes. I mean, the thing is, what they'd like now is to move on from their 500 or 600 members, like in order to heave up the new plane of reality, the new timeline. They like to get considerably more people involved on it. I mean, if Jackie Chan plays Alberto, he's obviously going to need some action scenes. I would suggest that we have him break into CERN and rescue the nothing. He can let the nothing out. The nothing goes spiralling up through the appallingness of matter, hit the eternal, ineffable laughing nothing. We'll get a blowback from so, yeah. But I think that amazes me about the whole thing is when Esperity told me all this stuff about the galactic meeting in 2610 and everything, and you know, this insectoidal chap coming back through the synchronic timelines and getting born to Mrs. Einaudi, pub landlady and Piedmont and all that and everything, new timelines, is how come I just kind of accepted it and said, yeah, I think that's the one to do. It's a funny memory I got. It's like saying, well, where was the squire? Why didn't he make? And what do you know? That's because the squire had met his Anne in a hotel room in Philadelphia, and whenever it was, September the 9th. 2001. The squire has become a kind of librarian now. With maybe Elsie, you see. Elsie is maybe some kind of vital superheroine. No, in every generation, one is chosen. She alone will stand against the vampires and the demons and the forces of darkness. Elsie, the arsehole slayer. This is what I want to show you. This is what I'll show you first. I'll do it again. I've faffed it. I've really got out of sync now. Let's start it all again. Take two. Take two. What are you shooting now? Take 10. Oh, have a fag. Bollocks to it. Ah, really, Jesus. Hollywood feature. What about them? Careful there, Bob. Do you want to try that again?
You had to, yeah. Yeah, no, I've been going all the time.
But I haven't.
No.
You don't know. God, what a shower! Nobody knows what I'm up to. What in this hoping? Well, I don't know. Yeah, great. Well, we got cups here now.